Hollywood sold the world perfect romances, but behind closed doors, its biggest stars risked careers, marriages, and reputations for secret love. From forbidden affairs to relationships hidden for decades, these stories reveal what fame tried to bury. Stay until the end and subscribe to Hollywood Legends, remembered for more unforgettable Hollywood secrets. John F. Kennedy. John Fitzgerald Kennedy was born in Brookline, Massachusetts, and became the 35th President of the United States in 1961. His youth confidence and glamorous family helped create the celebrated Camelot image, but his private conduct inside the White House revealed a far more troubling use of power. In the summer of 1962, 19-year-old college student Mimi Beardsley, later known as Mimi Alford, arrived as an intern in the White House press office. According to her memoir, once upon a secret, Kennedy invited her into the private residence during her first week. Their first sexual encounter occurred on her fourth day at work, and the secret relationship continued intermittently for about 18 months. Alford later emphasized the enormous imbalance between an inexperienced teenager and the most powerful man in the country. Although she did not describe the encounter as rape, she acknowledged that she lacked the confidence and experience to resist his authority. Could you imagine trying to understand that relationship while surrounded by aides, whose job was to protect the president? Alford kept the secret for roughly 4 decades. The affair became public in 2003 after historian Robert Dallek found references to a young intern while researching Kennedy. She briefly confirmed the report, then published her full account in 2012. Alford also admitted that she felt little guilt toward Jacqueline Kennedy at the time, a reaction she later regretted. Kennedy was assassinated in November 1963 and never faced public questions about the relationship. Alford's testimony eventually exposed how easily presidential access, secrecy, and personal authority could be used behind the carefully protected Camelot image. Anthony Perkins. Anthony Perkins was an American actor born in New York City in 1932. After earning an Academy Award nomination for Friendly Persuasion, he became permanently associated with Norman Bates in Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. Behind that carefully managed leading man image, Perkins was navigating a private life Hollywood considered dangerous to reveal. In the mid-1950s, Perkins began a relationship with fellow heartthrob Tab Hunter. Hunter later confirmed that they met at the Chateau Marmont and remained involved for several years. Their fame made ordinary dates nearly impossible. He recalled that they sometimes entered movie theaters separately, wore baseball caps, and avoided being photographed together. Paramount executives eventually objected and pressured Perkins to stop seeing him. They continued meeting for a time, but studio control gradually pulled them apart. Could you imagine becoming famous while every public appearance with the person you loved could threaten both careers? Perkins never publicly discussed those relationships during his lifetime. In 1973, he married photographer and actress Barry Berenson, with whom he had 2 sons, Oz and Elvis. Their marriage lasted until his death, although later accounts described his struggle with sexuality and attempted conversion therapy. Perkins died from AIDS-related pneumonia in September 1992 at 60. He kept the diagnosis private, fearing the industry would stop employing him. Tab Hunter later remembered him warmly not as Norman Bates, but as a complicated man shaped by talent fear and an unforgiving studio system. Kim Novak. Kim Novak is an American actress born Marilyn Novak in Chicago, Illinois. Columbia Pictures transformed her into one of the 1950s biggest stars, but she resisted the studio's attempts to control her identity. Her films included Picnic: The Man with the Golden Arm, Bell Book and Candle, and Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo. In 1957, Novak became involved with Sammy Davis Jr., one of America's most successful black entertainers. Their private meetings took place during an era when interracial marriage remained illegal in numerous states, and public approval was extremely low. Davis sometimes hid in the back of a car while traveling to Novak's home because reporters and studio employees were watching them. When gossip columns reported the relationship and incorrectly suggested marriage, Columbia chief Harry Cohn feared that racist backlash would damage Novak's career. Could you continue seeing someone when a powerful studio could threaten both your livelihood and personal safety? Later accounts alleged that mob-connected figures warned Davis to end the relationship or face serious violence. He soon entered a short-lived arranged marriage with dancer Lorraine White, while Novak withdrew from the relationship under intense pressure. Because the threats were reported years later through witnesses and biographers, they should be described as documented allegations rather than proven legal findings. Novak has rejected the idea that their relationship was merely scandalous or sexual. In 2025, she said she genuinely cared for Davis and believed they understood each other's need to be valued for who they were rather than how society viewed them. Gene Roddenberry. Gene Roddenberry was an American television writer and producer born in El Paso, Texas in 1921. After serving as a bomber pilot, working for Pan American, and joining the Los Angeles Police Department, he moved into television. His defining creation was Star Trek, the 1966 science fiction series that imagined a multicultural future built on cooperation rather than prejudice. Roddenberry's private life was far less orderly than the world he envisioned. While still married to his first wife, Eileen Anita Rexroth, he became romantically involved with actress Nichelle Nichols after meeting her during production of The Lieutenant. Nichols later wrote in her autobiography, Beyond Uhura, that the relationship began before Star Trek and continued for several years. At the same time, Roddenberry was also involved with actress Majel Barrett. Could you trust someone who asked you to accept another relationship while keeping everything hidden from the public? According to Nichols, Roddenberry wanted to continue seeing both women. She eventually ended the relationship after recognizing how deeply Barrett loved him, explaining that she did not want to become the other woman to the other woman. Their romance was over before Nichols began playing Lieutenant Uhura, and the two maintained a lasting professional friendship. Roddenberry later divorced Eileen and married Majel Barrett in Japan in August 1969, followed by a legal civil ceremony that December. They remained married until his death in 1991. Nichols revealed their earlier relationship only after he was gone, adding a complicated personal chapter to the legacy of the man who imagined humanity overcoming its oldest divisions. Gregory Peck. Gregory Peck was an American actor born in La Jolla, California in 1916. Known for Roman Holiday, The Guns of Navarone, and his Oscar-winning performance as Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird, he built a public image defined by dignity and restraint. In 1945, Peck starred opposite Ingrid Bergman in Alfred Hitchcock's Spellbound. Their close work did not remain entirely professional. Both actors were married. Peck to Greta Kukkonen and Bergman to Petter Lindstrom, and Peck later acknowledged that they became romantically involved during production. The relationship remained private for decades and never became a public scandal while their careers were at their peak. Could you imagine watching audiences praise your on-screen chemistry while knowing part of it had continued after filming ended? Peck finally addressed the relationship in a 1987 interview with People 5 years after Bergman's death. He said he had felt a real love for her, but declined to provide intimate details, explaining only that they were young and had spent weeks working together under intense conditions. Bergman left no comparable public account, so Peck's admission remains the clearest direct evidence. The affair did not immediately end Peck's marriage. He and Kukkonen divorced in December 1955 after 13 years together. The next day, he married French journalist Véronique Pisani and remained with her until his death in 2003. What happened during Spellbound survived not through studio publicity, but through Peck's own carefully limited confession. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe was an American actress born Norma Jean Mortensen in Los Angeles, California in 1926. Films such as Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, The 7-Year Itch, and Some Like It Hot turned her into Hollywood's defining blonde icon. Before that image was fully established, however, she became involved with one of the industry's most powerful directors. Around 1951, Monroe began a brief affair with Elia Kazan, director of A Streetcar Named Desire. Kazan was married to playwright Molly Day Thatcher. Unlike many stories attached to Monroe's name, this relationship was not built entirely on gossip. PBS's American Masters identifies the affair, while Kazan later discussed Monroe in his autobiography and acknowledged the relationship in private correspondence. Could you imagine being a young actress seeking serious work while the man offering guidance was also keeping you inside a secret relationship? Kazan introduced Monroe to his close friend Arthur Miller during a Hollywood visit. Miller was fascinated by her, and Monroe was drawn to a playwright who treated her intellectual ambitions seriously. Their connection did not become a marriage until 1956, years after that first meeting. Monroe later remembered that Kazan had cared for her, encouraged psychoanalysis, and directed her toward acting teacher Lee Strasberg. The affair itself was brief, and there is no reliable evidence that Kazan promised her a major role. What remains are their letters, memoirs, and Monroe's own recollection of a relationship formed before the world had fully created Marilyn Monroe. Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor was the British-American actress born in Hampstead, London in 1932 and raised largely in Los Angeles. Beginning as a child star, she matured into one of Hollywood's most powerful performers, winning Academy Awards for Butterfield 8 and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Her private life, however, often attracted as much attention as her films. While making Cleopatra in Rome in 1962, Taylor began a relationship with Welsh actor Richard Burton, who played Mark Antony. Both were married, Taylor to singer Eddie Fisher and Burton to actress Sybil Williams. Their intimacy quickly moved beyond the set, and photographs of them embracing aboard a yacht removed any possibility of keeping the affair private. Newspapers followed their movements daily, while the Vatican's newspaper publicly condemned their behavior. Taylor later recalled receiving vicious personal attacks and even threats of violence. Could any relationship survive when photographers, religious authorities, and millions of strangers were judging every decision? After completing their divorces, Taylor and Burton married in Montreal on March 15, 1964. They appeared together in 11 films and became known worldwide as Liz and Dick. But their relationship was marked by arguments, heavy drinking, and constant scrutiny. They divorced in 1974, reconciled and married again in Botswana in October 1975, then separated permanently the following year. Their marriages ended, but Taylor never treated Burton as an ordinary former husband. Family accounts and her preserved correspondence indicate that her attachment to him remained long after his death in 1984. Katharine Hepburn. Katharine Hepburn was an American actress born in Hartford, Connecticut in 1907. Fiercely independent both on and off screen, she built a 6-decade career that included The Philadelphia Story, The African Queen, and On Golden Pond. Her 4 Academy Awards for Best Actress remain a record for any performer. Her most enduring private relationship began after she met Spencer Tracy while making Woman of the Year in 1941. Tracy was still married to Louise Treadwell Tracy, with whom he had 2 children. Although the marriage had become distant, he never divorced. Hepburn and Tracy therefore kept their relationship largely out of public view, maintained separate residences, and avoided discussing it with the press. What audiences saw as exceptional screen chemistry was also connected to a romance that lasted until Tracy's death. Could you remain in a relationship for more than 2 decades while knowing it might never be publicly acknowledged? Hepburn and Tracy made 9 films together, including Adam's Rib Pat and Mike and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. As Tracy's health declined, Hepburn reduced her workload and helped care for him. She was nearby when he died in June 1967, shortly after their final film was completed. Out of consideration for Louise and the Tracy family, Hepburn did not attend his funeral. She remained publicly restrained about the relationship until after Louise Tracy's death in 1983. Hepburn later described their years together in her 1991 memoir, Me Stories of My Life, finally placing Hollywood's long-running open secret into her own account. Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra grew up in Hoboken, New Jersey, before his smooth voice carried him from neighborhood clubs to national fame. By the late 1940s, he was already married to Nancy Barbato and raising 3 children, but his family life had been weakened by long absences and repeated affairs. Ava Gardner entered the story when Sinatra's career was beginning to lose momentum. Their attraction developed around 1949 and quickly became difficult to conceal. Gardner was one of Hollywood's most glamorous actresses, while Sinatra remained one of America's most recognizable married entertainers. Photographers followed them, gossip columnists documented their movements, and Nancy was forced to watch the relationship become public entertainment. What would you do if the most painful betrayal in your marriage appeared in newspapers for millions of strangers to discuss? Nancy and Sinatra divorced in October 1951. Only days later, he married Gardner in Philadelphia. Ending the secrecy did not make their relationship easier. Both were intensely jealous, frequently separated by work, and known for emotional arguments, followed by dramatic reconciliations. Their marriage unfolded while Sinatra struggled to rebuild his career, eventually winning an Academy Award for From Here to Eternity. Gardner separated from him in 1953 and filed for divorce the following year, although the legal process was not completed until 1957. Neither treated the relationship as insignificant afterward. Gardner later called Sinatra the love of her life, and they remained in contact for decades. Long after the marriage ended, Sinatra reportedly continued checking on her health and offering financial help during her final years. Vivien Leigh. Vivien Leigh was a British stage and film actress born in Darjeeling, British India in 1913. She later became internationally famous as Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind and Blanche DuBois in A Streetcar Named Desire, winning Academy Awards for both performances. Her relationship with Laurence Olivier began before either was free to pursue it openly. Leigh was married to barrister Lee Holman and had a young daughter, while Olivier was married to actress Jill Esmond and had a son. After meeting socially, they worked together as romantic leads in Fire Over England. During production, professional admiration developed into an affair that they initially concealed from their spouses and the public. How long could 2 rising stars hide a relationship when audiences were already noticing their chemistry on screen? The secrecy did not weaken their attachment. Leigh and Olivier exchanged intensely personal letters whenever work separated them. More than 200 letters, telegrams, photographs, and other documents preserved in the Victoria and Albert Museum reveal how seriously they regarded the relationship, rather than treating it as a temporary studio romance. Both eventually left their first marriages and married each other in 1940. They became one of British theater's most celebrated couples, appearing together on stage and in films, including That Hamilton Woman. Their marriage ended in 1960 after years of personal strain, illness, and other relationships. Leigh never remarried. The private correspondence she kept preserves the early years when 2 married actors were still trying to build a shared life without publicly admitting it. Gary Cooper. The cameras were filming The Fountainhead when Gary Cooper's carefully controlled private life began to unravel. Born Frank James Cooper in Helena, Montana, he became one of Hollywood's defining leading men through films such as Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, Sergeant York, and High Noon. By 1948, he was married to socialite Veronica Rocky Balfe and had a daughter. His co-star, Patricia Neal, was 25 years younger and still near the beginning of her film career. Their attraction developed during production and continued when they reunited for Brightleaf. What began discreetly soon became an open secret around Hollywood. Cooper admitted the relationship when his wife confronted him, but he continued seeing Neal. What happens when 2 people call it love, yet every possible choice is likely to wound someone else? Neal became pregnant during the affair. In her 1988 autobiography, As I Am, she revealed that she and Cooper agreed she would have an abortion, an illegal and dangerous procedure at the time. She later described that decision as one of her deepest regrets. Cooper separated from his wife in 1951, but he did not divorce her or build the future Neal had hoped for. Their relationship ended later that year, leaving Neal emotionally devastated. Cooper eventually returned to Rocky, formally reconciling with her in 1954. They remained married until his death in 1961. Neal carried the story privately for decades before finally recording it in her own words. Marlene Dietrich. Wartime New York brought together two European stars who had been separated from the countries that made them famous. Marlene Dietrich, born in Berlin in 1901, had become an international sensation through the Blue Angel Morocco and Shanghai Express. French actor Jean Gabin arrived in America after the German occupation of France, frustrated by exile and unable to rebuild his European success in Hollywood. By 1941, their friendship had developed into a serious relationship. Dietrich remained legally married to Rudolf Sieber, although they had long lived largely separate romantic lives. Gabin was also still married when the affair began. Dietrich helped him adjust to America and supported his decision to join the Free French forces. She later followed Allied troops across Europe performing for soldiers under dangerous conditions, while Gabin served in the military. Can a relationship formed during exile and war survive once ordinary life finally returns? After the liberation of France, they tried to build a future together in Europe. They appeared opposite each other in the 1946 drama Martin Rumignac, allowing audiences to watch two real-life lovers play a destructive screen romance. Yet their plans gradually separated them. Gabin wanted a settled family life in France, while Dietrich remained tied to America and her international career. Their relationship ended around 1948. Dietrich preserved correspondence connected to Gabin among the thousands of personal documents now held by the Deutsche Kinemathek. The archive provides something gossip never could: a surviving record of a wartime relationship that extended far beyond publicity photographs and studio promotion. Lauren Bacall. Humphrey Bogart slipped into Lauren Bacall's dressing room during the filming of To Have and Have Not and asked her to write her telephone number on a matchbook. Bacall was 19, nervous in front of the camera and appearing in her first film. Bogart was 44, already one of Hollywood's most established actors, and still married to actress Mayo Methot. Their attraction quickly moved beyond studio rehearsals. Bacall later remembered secret meetings, private notes, and the painful uncertainty of waiting for Bogart to decide whether he would truly leave his marriage. Methot and Bogart had a volatile relationship, but he repeatedly returned home and attempted reconciliation. Bacall continued working beside him while knowing that every promise could disappear once filming ended. How much patience would you give someone who said he loved you, but was still trying to save another relationship? Director Howard Hawks also complicated matters. He had helped create Bacall's screen image and reportedly feared the romance would distract her or damage the film. Yet the pressure did not end their relationship. Bogart's divorce became final on May 10, 1945. 11 days later, he and Bacall married at Malabar Farm in Ohio. What began as a hidden affair became a 12-year marriage. They raised 2 children and appeared together in The Big Sleep Dark Passage and Key Largo. Bacall remained beside Bogart throughout his battle with esophageal cancer. When he died in January 1957, the private telephone number written on a matchbook had led to the longest partnership of his life. Harrison Ford. A birthday party for George Lucas in London became the starting point of a secret that remained hidden for 4 decades. Harrison Ford, born in Chicago, Illinois, was still a struggling actor and carpenter before American Graffiti and Star Wars transformed him into one of Hollywood's most recognizable leading men. During the filming of the first Star Wars movie in 1976, he was married to Mary Marquardt and raising 2 sons. Carrie Fisher was 19 and playing Princess Leia in only her second film. Ford was 33 and portraying Han Solo. Fisher later revealed in her 2016 memoir, The Princess Diarist, that they began a private relationship after Lucas's party. The affair continued for roughly 3 months, largely during the London production. Their castmates and the public remained unaware while Fisher recorded her confusion and insecurity in journals she never expected anyone else to read. What would you have done at 19, caught between sudden fame and a relationship with an older married co-star? Fisher did not portray the affair as a glamorous romance. She remembered Ford as kind, but her diary entries revealed how deeply she questioned whether she was attractive or experienced enough for him. She also acknowledged feeling guilty because he had a wife and children. The relationship ended when filming finished, and neither publicly discussed it for 40 years. Before publishing this memoir, Fisher sent Ford an early manuscript and offered to change material. He did not provide a detailed public account. The surviving record therefore comes primarily from Fisher's private journals written before either Han Solo or Princess Leia had become cultural icons. Whitney Houston. Before the stadium tours and record-breaking albums, Whitney Houston spent a New Jersey summer working beside Joan Crawford. Born in Newark in 1963, Houston rose from singing gospel in church to becoming a global superstar, later starring in The Bodyguard and achieving 7 consecutive #1 singles on the Billboard Hot 100. Houston met Crawford in 1980, while both were counselors at an East Orange community center. Crawford later wrote in her memoir, A Song for You, that their immediate friendship developed into a romantic and physical relationship. Around 1982, as Houston's recording career began taking shape, she gave Crawford a Bible and said they could no longer be physical because discovery might be used against them. They never defined themselves publicly, with labels such as gay or lesbian. How do two young women protect something deeply personal when an entire industry is preparing to sell one of them as a carefully controlled image? Crawford did not disappear from Houston's life. She remained her closest confidant and later worked as an assistant and creative director while Houston's fame expanded. Their closeness attracted years of speculation, but neither publicly confirmed the early romance. Crawford eventually left Houston's professional circle in 2000. 7 years after Houston's death, Crawford finally told their story. Her account preserved a relationship that began before the contract's gossip columns and commercial pressures made openness far more difficult. Rock Hudson. Only one public photograph is known to show Rock Hudson beside Lee Garlington during their relationship. Born Roy Harold Scherer Jr. in Winnetka, Illinois, Hudson became Hollywood's ideal romantic leading man through giant pillow talk and magnificent obsession. That image depended on audiences never learning that he was gay. Garlington first noticed Hudson outside his cottage on the Universal lot in 1962. A mutual friend arranged a private meeting the following year, and the two men began a relationship that continued until 1965. They spent much of their time quietly at Hudson's Beverly Hills home, where ordinary domestic evenings offered privacy unavailable in restaurants or premieres. During a 1963 trip to Puerto Vallarta, they could finally walk on the beach and take photographs without fearing recognition. How would it feel to love one of the world's biggest stars while being forbidden to stand openly beside him? Hudson's agent warned him never to be photographed with a boyfriend. When a fan once entered his home and slept in his bed, Hudson became alarmed because private photographs of Garlington were stored nearby. He later installed gates, understanding that one discovery could destroy the masculine image supporting his career. The relationship ended without public drama. Garlington did not know its importance until reading Hudson's posthumous biography, which described him as one of the actor's true loves. Hudson died from AIDS-related complications in October 1985. Garlington was unable to visit him, preserving instead the memory of the gentle man he had known before illness and secrecy consumed his final months. Joan Crawford. By the time MGM paired Joan Crawford with Clark Gable in Dance Fool's Dance in 1931, she was already one of the studio's major stars. Born Lucille Fay LeSueur in San Antonio, Texas, Crawford had worked her way from dancing jobs to Hollywood fame. Gable was still climbing, but their shared ambition and difficult childhoods created an immediate connection. The attraction moved off-screen as they made Laughing Sinners and Possessed. Crawford was married to Douglas Fairbanks Jr., while Gable was married to Texas socialite Rhea Langham. By the time Possessed was filmed, their affair had reportedly become an open secret inside Hollywood, even though the public saw only the intense chemistry MGM placed on screen. Crawford and Gable ultimately appeared together in 8 films between 1931 and 1940. How long could two married stars continue a relationship when studio employees and their own spouses already suspected the truth? Their involvement did not follow a simple beginning and ending. Biographical accounts describe them moving in and out of a physical relationship while maintaining a lasting friendship. Crawford later acknowledged that they had shared an affair, but neither discussed intimate details while it was happening. Gable eventually married Carole Lombard in 1939. After Lombard died in a plane crash in 1942, he reportedly spent many evenings at Crawford's home, drinking and talking about the wife he had lost. The romance had ended, but Crawford remained someone he trusted when his public image could no longer protect him from private grief.